So good afternoon, ladies
Good
and gentlemen, and to all attendee participant in this webinar. First of all, I would like to express my pleasures and honor to be presented in our webinar where we address a very critical and let's say very hot topic, not only for ASEAN, but particularly for Vietnam. So before I start my presentations about making quantum progress with solar photovoltaic in Vietnam and what are the key components, I would like to briefly introduce that I will go through for 3 points, which is what is the evolutions of solar PV in Vietnam. And what are the key motivations for such evolution or development? And lastly, then how the solar PV look like or what next after 2020. So the focus of my presentation today is to provide a broad perspective on the industrial, financials, and institutional factors that really impact on the progress of solar PV in Vietnam so far and also in the long run. Okay, firstly, then maybe then the overview about Vietnam's is important. Why? Vietnam is a young population country with over 90 million inhabitants, and 60% of the population's young workforce are young and in the middle age. And Vietnam is a fast-growing economy for the last 4 decades, ranging from 6 to 8%. And energies is the key enabler for such progress so far. And besides that, Vietnam economy is resource-centric. Among that, then the energy sectors is heavily rely on fossils like coal, gas, oil, and then in terms of renewable, so far we just have a hydro and parts of the biogas. Other factors related to Vietnam which give us a chance to have a stable development over time and also in the future that is politically stable. And the government always aim at a reform in all aspects of the business and political governance. That's why then the FDI come into the country getting increased, and especially after the COVID-19, and we look at quite sensitive political situations in the South Seas, then Vietnam is becoming more and more attractive destinations for all multinational corporations. And because of that, all of these factors, so a developing country like Vietnam, and they are on the way to fasten their modernizations, industrializations to achieve the target to increase the GDP by 1.5% to 2030, then you will see the huge demand of energies. Okay, so the next point is how the solar PV in Vietnam have evolved. Actually, I would say Vietnam would be the youngest in Asia to have the backdrop of development of solar PV. We actually ramp up from almost below 100 megawatt to almost 7 gigawatt after 36 months. And there is some reason behind, which we later discuss, but the solar PVs will aim at that development because firstly, based on the energy demand in Vietnam has been escalating rapidly, and it planned to increase 10% per year until 2030. And in the energy supply mix, the renewable energy would account for 21% and aim at increasing that percentage. And since 2018, when the government officially introduced the first pilot FIT programs, then the solar PV have a track to attract the foreign investor and also local investor in the field. So by fuel and about the energy supply mix, we will see that after 10 years from 2009 to 2018, solar was almost very marginal in the share of energy supply mix. However, since 2018, there was a 38-fold increase. And as we also get the information from previous sharing, there's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns about the bankability of this FIT, which is a very attractive price, 9.35 US cents, almost very high in our region. Despite this concern, despite this questions, then when the FIT2 were introduced just 4 months ago, which is 10% lower than the previous one, then the tariff is 8.38 US cent per kilowatt. And then the new install of solar PV keep ramping up. And after last year, then this year we are expecting another almost 39% growth. So meaning after 2019, we already have a 3.5 gigawatt of solar. And after this year, meaning just 120 days more, they are good about more than 1.5 gigawatt. So it makes the total almost 7 gigawatt. With such fast growth, then there's a lot of topics in terms of institutional and policy focus, financial arrangements, and technical and human perspective and human expertise to be prepared. Not only that, the country also planned to introduce or to install additional 12 gigawatt of solar PV by 2030. And we aim at the share of PV solar in total electricity productions would reach 6% by 2030 and 20% in 2050. So those numbers I could see that in my understanding, it is very aggressive. The two questions behind whether we can achieve it or not, or what are the conditions to achieve that. So we can share then the forecast of solar energy demand, firstly, from 2020 in 2050. So the national power plan would be updated, but this is the plan that MOIT, Ministry of Industrial and Trade, under the support of World Bank and Denmark embassies, had developed a pathway for energy sector in Vietnam. So there were 5 scenarios were developed, and from very, let's say, theoretical assumption that the energy just developed and the introductions of solar PV just will be introduced as the business usual. The second scenario is the renewable energy targets, meaning we will base on the target of increased renewable energies target into the national power plant. The next scenarios then is we will achieve the goal of the total energy mix to meet the social demand without having the new installation of coal after 2025. And the other two scenarios is the scenario where we will introduce the energy efficiencies in all energies manufactured and supplied and distributions. And finally, then where we have, let's say, the best optimum scenario where we combine all the key factors that promote renewable energies with energy efficiencies and no coal, which is ideal. Despite this different scenario, we will see the dominant role of solar. So wherever the scenario the company MS or have to deploy it in our national power plant, we'll see solar would be the key enabler to really materialize the power plant. So we see the historical and the forecast of energy installations. And yeah, I think it's important to also discuss what are the key drivers for such fast growth of Vietnam solar PV. There could be 4 key drivers. Of course, there's many other side effects, but I will see the very first one is the huge potentials of Vietnam. Of course, like in most other our other country in Asia, we are in a tropical country where we are very convenient in terms of irradiations. But Vietnam is so-called a solar-ready country for PV. So from the north to the south, up to now, with almost 7 gigawatts we already developed after 36 months, is what just from the southern. The northern was very minimum. And even in the northern, we have an irradiation is not really bad, right? 0.03 to 3.5. So because of the ready of the potentials of the country, that give us, let's say, a huge material sources, income sources. Second thing is the demand or the increased power shortage. So we are in a shortage powers. And it's what forecast then annually in average from now until 2030, we will need another 7 gigawatt new power. There are quite some reason for that, but we know that Vietnam has been now to really ramp up the industrializations process. And in order to do that, we will widen the industrial sectors, especially industrial park. For example, now we have 80,000 acres, 98,000 acres of industrial park. And industrial park is one of the top 3 sectors that require huge energy demand. So that is the potential for solar development. Second reason is the continuing increase of foreign direct investment company in the manufacturers when there are a big move shift from China to Vietnam and also to the rest of our other country in Asia. But we will see that the expansions of industrial zone and manufacturers during peak hour could raise the heavy power shortage. The next reason is, among many other factors, then PV solar is considered as the lowest average LCOE for Vietnam to pursue the low carbon pathway aspirations. Why? That is the factors. So we know that Vietnam is a developing country, and the role of FDI, FDI company, MNC companies is very important. And all of FDI, or I would say most of FDI MNCs in Vietnam, they have to comply with the low carbon. And in order to do that, coal, fossils are a must to reduce by the energy supplied from the country. And over time, as the forecast by McKinsey and experts from World Bank, so in Vietnam, then the LCOE of solar PV would be the lowest for the next 10 years. Last but not least, that is the policy. So we see all these three factors above already there for long times, but only until 2017, when the government published the FIT, that is very preferential and very incentive. Then the investment for FIT is already ramped up, and let's bring to the result at today. Then we are going to welcome the almost 7 gigawatt of PV solar. Another factor then in Vietnam, we see the high potential not only for solar farm or large scale, but the rooftop solar is the new potential source. And as said, when we have a minimum at 98,000 acres of industrial zone, which is planned to be expand more, then rooftop solar would be very attractive and very reliable new potential source to really increase the PV solar installed capacity. Okay, so that's how we have done so far and the reason. And now we need to look at the futures. So how the future look like, also based on the research and also framework proposed by World Bank. Then we developed the Vietnam Solar Competitive Bidding Strategy and Framework. So it is said that after 2020, there would be almost no more FIT, fixed FIT like before. So a competitive bidding program is being drafted. And under this program, bidding program, we will see then the role of new technologies, of the energy storage system technologies will be the key for the company to maintain, for the country to maintain the stable new install of capacity of the solar capacity in the next 10 years. I would like to explain some reason why storage could be the enabler, the key factors for the next momentum at the later stage. And apart from that, we will see then Vietnam could look for a stable and sustainable growth strategies for solar PV rather than so fast growth for the last 36 months. So we will see another 12 gigawatt to be installed in the next 10 years, could be almost stably or distributed every year. And after this year, there could be, let's say, a cool down in 2021, 2022, and 2023. I think that the government could need, and the government and the industry could need some time to really strengthen the framework and dedicated a PV solar roadmap to have a sustainable development in which we can create a reliable and efficient system in the future.
Dr. Nguyen, I think we have covered 10 minutes. I would like to expedite, please.
Okay, so my last slide is the challenge. So what are the challenges to the future's development of solar PV solars? As said, there could be 3 factors impact to the future development. First is the policies framework. So we need a clearer policy pathway rather than the ambiguous pathway and the pricing mechanism for the future energy price. So without FIT, what would be the mechanism for bidding programs? Second thing is the current policy has not really addressed the pathway to overcome the lack of human capacity and expertise in the field. And we also lack of the cross-sector regulatory framework to really consider on the cross-sector impact like social, economic, and environmental impact after the fast growth of PV solar. From the financial perspective, we are also facing quite some drivers, some challenges, because there would be the huge capital demand in the long run. However, the short-term short-term financial resources are quite shortage and mostly rely on either foreign investor or local bank. However, local banks are these days getting more and more conservative after such fast, but the efficiency of the system is unknown. That's why the full 100% project financings of last year is no more valid. And that's if this situation will not be improved, that will impact to the total plan of the country to achieve another 12 gigawatt by 2030. Last but not least is the industry itself. So the PV solar is very new in Vietnam, and we need to do a lot to provide proper training educations to improve the technical standards, to really improve the system efficiency. And in the end of the day, the reliability and the efficiency of the system would decide the confidence of the investor. And last but not least, if we really want to get the sustainable development, then we need the supporting industry under the development pathway from the government. So I just combine the challenge and the recommendation in one. Assess. Yeah. So as last then, thank you very much for your time, and thank you Global Solar Councils for organizing such a very helpful webinar and sharing. Thank you.